Okay. Isn't it true that when Muslims blow themselves up, they get 72 virgins in heaven? Blow themselves up? Okay, yeah. 72 virgins. Yeah, I think it was that. Why is it a problem, by the way? Is it? I don't know, is it a problem? Tell me, why is it a problem? I just want to know why everyone has an issue with it. Let me ask.
I was hoping for 75.
75.
Is it like, I guess the question, was it fair for the wives?
Oh, is it, okay, can we say like, is it misogynistic or something? Is that probably what we're referring here? That it's wrong for men to have?
I think it's the suicide itself, suicide killings.
Okay, well, I think that was just sensationalizing. Yeah. No, there are some, I don't want to get into it, but let's just assume that there's a lot of women in the afterlife that men are supposed to give a bit more to themselves, okay? Let's just deal with the issue, all right? We can get the specifics on hadith later, but anyway. So the Quran is really beautiful in the sense that when it talks about what people want to achieve in the afterlife, it always expresses it in the most abundant of ways. So like, you're going to get this many trees, you're going to get this many houses, you're going to get this many this, and they're going to be huge and beautiful and without any consequences, etc. So, it's interesting that a lot of times the Quran emphasizes to men who fight in battle that the first thing that they're going to get are virgins in heaven. Okay? And a lot of people look at this and they're like, oh, that's disgusting, that's patriarchal and nonsense. But I want you to think about it from the context of a 7th century Arab. An Arab Muslim male. Okay? The most valuable thing to have for a Muslim man is a righteous spouse. Now imagine that multiplied. For them, virginity was not necessarily about sex. It was a statement, a label of chastity, of purity, of belonging to only one person. It's like, this is mine, right? Nobody else has ever had contact, intimacy with this divinity. Okay, this is only meant for me. And then multiply. So the Quran, the Prophet, others are trying to emphasize that the quantity of that which you desire the most in life will be there. Okay, and the one thing that men desired most, Muslim men, was not because they just wanted to have sex all the time and everything, these horrible things that we talk about companions. We always emphasize that they're these sexual monsters, they're just, all they care about is women, No. Because the most valuable thing to a Muslim male is a righteous woman. That is the most emphasized thing. The one thing that you can treasure more than anything else in your existence as a Muslim man is to have a righteous spouse and righteous children. Righteous things like this, not material items. Those were emphasized after this. They were emphasized, having all these palm trees and all these running rivers and things like this. Right? These were emphasized after that. But they were not in the same category. They were not material objects.
Someone please have objections.
No. Hold on. I want to be very clear here, because people will have this really messed up mentality that the reason that we mention women is just because of sex. Like, that's all men care about. I'm sorry, but that's degrading to men. I'll make it very clear. That's very degrading to men. There are scientific studies today that when a man loses a wife or he breaks up, men take it harder than women do. That's why the male suicide rate is higher. Okay? When a man finds a woman that he cares about, he loves, he's willing to give himself up to, that takes up most of his existence. A man does not work because he likes big houses and cars. A man works for the most part because he wants to give it all to his family. A man is willing to run in front of a bus and to protect his wife or his kids, not because I like doing this. It's great. I don't get up every morning and go to work because I like to work. I get up every morning because I have to pay the bills. Why? Because my wife needs to be taken care of. If I could live in a cardboard box, I would. But I don't. A lot of things that I have, I give to my family. A lot of things that men work for generally, like most of their income goes to their family. A man dedicates his life to his family. Now, I don't know who has immigrant parents here. I'm sure many of you do. But have you seen how your father, well, everyone has different situations, but most of you, have you seen how your parent, your mother, especially your father, I know people, a lot of the young men who tell me about their fathers who would literally, they'll have degrees over in some other country. They come over here and drive a taxi, you know, for years and years. They work like endless hours just to make sure that their wife and their kids are happy. They sacrifice every part of their being. When a man loves a woman, there is nothing else he will give anything else. I mean, that becomes his life. Okay? Just the same as when a woman has a child. All right? That everything is given to them, to that child. All right? Men take heartbreak and they take companionship deeply, deeply personal. Yes, men can be all, think about sex all the time because psychologically people have proven this, okay? But when a man dedicates himself to a woman, there is no better loyalty. As far as I'm concerned. I'm a man, I know, I understand. Okay? But even in the animal kingdom, among mammals, males will sacrifice themselves instantly to protect everything. They don't care about their own lives. So when a man martyrs himself for the sake of Islam, and he's promised companionship in heaven after he gave up his family back home, and he goes into the desert for 3, 4, 5, 6 months, 2, 4, 5 years to fight against the disbelievers who are about to invade your land and kill your family, he better get some sort of promise in the afterlife, something that is going to replace or at least complement everything that he gave up. And when Allah tells these men, I'm going to give you righteous spouses in heaven when we die.
You made these 72 virgin men, or no, sorry.
So my point, once again, and I'm sorry if I sound passionate, I want to emphasize that, yeah, we live in this time period where men get a lot of flack too. We get told we're the root of all the problems in the world and things like this for women. And look, I get it. There are some really horrible men out there. There are horrible men out there. And there are sex-crazed men and, men who go around and rape and do horrible things. But what about the men, who don't do those things? What about the men who emphasize a different standard, who represent and manifest a different standard? And what are you saying about the companions when you mention this? They were some of the best men on this earth. They treated their wives like this. Do you honestly think that they wanted virgins in heaven because of sex? That when they were told that's what they were thinking, oh yeah, I'm going to have a lot of sex when I get to heaven. It's great. That's why I'm sacrificing my life right now in the middle of this desert because I want to have a bunch of sex. Honestly? It doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make any sense at all that you would die for that, just for that. Come on, we're not machines that just want to do those things. We have feelings too. These men sacrifice so much of what they love and care about just to perform those acts, and they died in the middle of a desert, nowhere to be buried, nowhere to be commended for. Their families learned about their death several months later. Oh, by the way, your husband was killed in battle. I know you're expecting him back. He died for you, by the way. Allah will reward him. You don't think about it from that angle? No, he's enjoying himself. He's fine. If I was in the middle of that, and I was scared for my life, and I didn't know if I was coming back to my family, and Allah came down and said, look, I'm going to give you all of this and more. Even in our Aqidah too, your wife, she goes up to heaven, she joins you, she becomes queen among all of them. And it's like, get all of this. You're going to get all this reward. I know you're scared. But look at what you're going to achieve. I was trying to calm you down. Allah is trying to tell you something. Like, look, you don't have anything to fear. I understand what you've sacrificed. You will gain everything because of it. How comforted would you be? You really think that these soldiers who are fearing for their lives in that moment were thinking, yeah, I'm going to get sex? Like, I wouldn't enter my mind if that would be the last thing to enter my mind if I was about to die. Honestly. I would not be in the mood in that moment, okay? I'm just being frank with you, right? Would any male in here honestly be in the mood when they're about to face death? This guy's gonna cut my head off, but the girls, like, no.